I mean, so we've just reviewed Burke and Hogan. If you had to pick, gun to your head, who would you have to choose to go up front?
Neil Etheridge. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because I mean, but I think actually, because you're asking that question, right, about would you pick Burke or Hogan, that in itself demonstrates how weak we are up front. How we're reviewing 5 players here. And for a championship club, that's just not acceptable to have 5 strikers. So welcome back to Small East Alliance FC. And as we approach the end of this season, myself and Matt have been discussing what we think the squad will look like for next season. We've already put a couple of videos out, which you might have already seen on the channel. One looks at our goalkeeper and defenders, and then we did a second video in relation to our midfielders. And that is looking at the current squad and asking ourselves whether we think they should be here next season, or indeed whether they will be here next season. And in this video, we're going to look at the forwards. So I'm going to bounce it straight over to Matt and go with the first striker that's on my list. So what do you think about Tyler Roberts?
Tyler Roberts is an interesting one. We say that a lot on these videos, don't we, about the players? But, I mean, let's call it what it is. A striker or a forward with no goals in any given season looks poor, doesn't it? He's also very injury prone. He's had a lot of time on the injury. I mean, at one point, I didn't think we were going to see him, to be perfectly honest. You know, he kept having bad injury after bad injury, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I do feel a little bit sorry for him. I don't think he's shown us his full potential just yet. But he is on a 4-year contract, which just seems with someone who's renowned to be injury prone. Why would you give someone a 4-year contract? That just seems bonkers to me. The only person higher than that is Lee Buchanan on 5. So, you know, in terms of club contract, he's here for a while. But, you know, when he came back from injury, you know, he had a good spells in the Blackburn game and the Sunderland game. You know, he was quite busy in the box. I think he was quite useful and helping us get those goals in those games. But overall, for me, not enough goals, too injury prone, and I would look to sell him in the summer. I really would.
Yeah, I think you've made some good points there. It's a shame. I think everybody, all Blues fans, are expecting a lot more of him now because he's had a good run in the side. He hasn't always started, but he's come on as sub. But he has started a decent few games now. But like you said, no goals. But he's a striker. You know, you're going to be judged as a striker on your goals, aren't you? Or your contribution or assist. But yeah, he has assisted in a few goals actually. But I agree with you. I really disappointed really in terms of his return. He has shown glimpses of a good player in there in terms of his skill, but I do think sometimes he's so keen to score. I think he overplays the ball as well.
Bad decision making sometimes.
Yeah,
as well.
and he just gets tackled as well. So I think if he does get a goal, it will give him some confidence. But in my opinion, I totally agree with what you've just said. Yeah. I think that he, on a 4-year contract, he's with us until 2027. Yeah. Is he the type of player that we want moving forward? I'm not sure.
And also as well, the bigger question, so me and you have just openly said Salim. Who's going to buy a forward with no goals and who's on the injury table? So I don't even think we'd manage to sell him because possibly no one would even want him. Not to be, disrespectful to Tyler Roberts, just the stats speak for themselves. Who's going to buy a striker who's on the injury table and doesn't score?
Well, he's got 6 games left this season. If I was him, I'd be sort of trying. I'm sure he tries every game to score goals, but actually sort of trying to make some impact in the team. That will give him either the Blues fans the confidence that he can be a better player next season, or put him in the shop window so that somebody will buy him.
Yeah. But what's really interesting is he was really liked by Bielsa at Leeds. However, if you speak to the Leeds fans or you hear their comments on social media, they say he was injured a lot. So I think there is a player there. Maybe he needs more match practice. He needs to get to full fitness and get a full running in the team. But even for me, the quality isn't there in Tyler Roberts. And if I had a preference, I'd sell him in the summer personally.
Yeah, I think it's a shame because when you listen to him, he seems like a really nice guy. But this is not about whether you're nice or not. It's about football and what positive impact you can have on the team. Next, we've got one of our lone players, Jay Stansfield. What's your thoughts on him?
Well, I think a lot of the Blues fans will join me on this one. I love Jay Stansfield. And if it wasn't for Stansfield, I mean, where would the majority of our goals have came from this season? You know, an absolute net breaker. He's always scoring goals that are going to rip the net off. We commented recently about this, about how he should try and finesse a couple and take composure over power, because we have seen him, to be fair, miss a couple. Millwall away this season was a prime example. He went through and he tried to whack it and didn't. QPR away. Tried to whack it if he had a little bit of composure, but we saw it in the Preston game, because at the time of recording, that was on the Monday. A bit of composure, really good finish, and Jay Stansfield is a great player. My only concern is his market value now. Fulham are going to want, I think, somewhere between 10 and 15 million. Are we going to break the bank for Jay Stansfield in that price range? I'm not too sure. I'd love to see him in a blue shirt. I'd love to get him full contracted, but if that ship does sail and we don't get Jay Stansfield, I still think with that market value of 10 to 15 million, we can still get a very, very good striker or a very decent couple of strikers for that. So we'd love to see him down the Blues. Might be too expensive for what we tried to achieve this summer.
Yeah, I think, a lot of it depends on whether Fulham want to sell him, because Fulham might want to keep him. So it's not really in our hands at all.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, if we can keep him, definitely. I think maybe 10 million is probably about right, I think, or maybe slightly less, because fair enough, he's doing very well for us at the moment, but he's not been in the Premier League, so he's not an established Premier League player. So but you'd be looking for us. It would be a lot of money for us to pay for him, and I really hope we can keep him. The other thing that goes against us as well, of course, he's put himself in the shop window for himself playing for us, and a lot of clubs would have seen him, and a lot of clubs are going to be after him. So we're going to have competition as well. It depends on what he feels as well. So, yeah, in my opinion, if we can keep him, let's keep him. Yeah. If he sort of decides to go to pastures new, then we'll be very sad about that, but wish him good luck, of course. Yeah. But I'm with you. Yeah. Definitely keep him.
Also, he scored goals in this Blues team, in terms of like reception and service. Imagine if you put Stansfield in your likes of your Leicesters and your Ipswiches. I think he's a bang-on 20, 25-plus goal scorer a season.
If he had somebody alongside him.
Alongside him. Yeah. If he had a bit better reception or someone alongside him, he's definitely a 20-plus, 25-plus goal a year goal scorer.
But he's very. He's very on the edge whether we'll keep him for all the reasons we've just discussed. Yeah. So if we can keep him, great. But
at the time of recording against Preston, after he scored, he gave the badge a good old tap. So I think he's got a connection with the club. I think he likes us. I think he likes the fans. So for me, if the stars align, 100% we should sign him up. But there's a lot of factors which go out of our hands, isn't there, for Jay Stansfield?
Yeah.
And that brings us on to our next one, and I'll hand this over to you to start off with, because you'll possibly be a bit more positive on this one than I will be, and that's Ollie Burke.
Well, you say be more positive. I mean, he's done nothing for us, has he? Let's be brutally honest. He's been a major disappointment at the club. I think he would admit that himself, to be honest, if you asked him. Clearly, he's not even being picked now on the bench. He's only on loan with us, so that he will go back to his parent club. But I think he's been overly disappointing. When we've seen him, I think he was quite a favourite when Rooney was here. He would be picking quite regularly, but he lacks, Well, I think that he's clearly in his early career, he went for big money from the places at Nottingham Forest and West Bromwich Albion, 15 million. I think they play for. And I look at that and I think I don't know how he got to that level, because from what I've seen, he's given us basically nothing. It's a very simple answer here. He won't be here next season.
Yeah. I completely agree. Coming back to the Tyler Roberts thing, he's a forward who's an attacking-minded player, no goals, no assists. You could argue he was on the pitch for his physicality, but every time Woody lumped a head up, he seemed to lose it. So genuinely, I didn't know what he offered. And if there wasn't like a legal obligation to pay his salary, I genuinely would have got rid of him off the books in January. But of course, there's loan contract there that we still have to pay his salary, I believe. So for me, again, let's keep it short. 100% Burke will not. I'll be staggered and really upset if he's in next season, but we need to, get rid of that.
I think we agree on that. The next one is another player that I think has been a bit divisive among the Blues fan base, and that's Scott Hogan. So what's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, Scott Hogan, I have no hard feelings about Scott Hogan in terms of, I think he will be gone in the summer, and I wish him all the best. I think he's been a good servant for Birmingham. I think he's past his faster years, he's past his goal scoring years. I think he's gone as far as he's going to go with the Blues, if I'm perfectly honest. He's part of the old regime. He's still on quite high salary, so he'll be good to get off the books for FFP, bring in some new, fresh, younger players. He's out of contract. Yeah, I think he'll be gone. In fact, I'm almost certain he'll be gone. And Hogan, I wish you genuinely nothing but the best with your career and moving forward with your future club. No hard feelings with Hogan, but I don't think he'll be a Blues player next year.
No, and he's out of contract anyway,
exactly.
And he's been at the club 4 years. He's been our top scorer. I think it's 10s and 13s. It's not prolific, but he has been our top scorer. So he has been a good servant for us. Mm-hmm. And I think we got him towards the end of his career. I think he's 31 now. And when he was younger, he had a bit of pace. He's never been an electrically paced player, but he did have more pace. I think since he's lost that pace, I think that he's lost that edge that he would have given him something different. And I think that's where he's really struggled. I don't think it's helped as well with the formations that we've been playing in him as well. But yeah, definitely will not be here next season, in my opinion. And like you, I wish him well because he has been a good servant for us, scored plenty of goals for a Blues player. And
for Hogan, you can't knock his work ethic. Whenever he's on the pitch and he wears the badge, he runs, he puts the work in, he tries his best. He's unfortunately just not good enough. So I think when that contract renews, that'll be the last we see of Hogan. But as we say, I think we both agree that we wish him well.
Yeah.
Whoever his future and next club is. I mean, so we've just reviewed Burke and Hogan. If you had to pick, gun to your head, who would you have to choose to go up front?
Neil Etheridge. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because I mean, but I think actually, because you're asking that question, right, about would you pick Burke or Hogan, that in itself demonstrates how weak we are up front. How we're reviewing 5 players here. And for a championship club, that's just not acceptable to have 5 strikers. So let's imagine that Jay Stansfield got injured or was suspended. Who would we have up front? We'd be looking at Tyler Roberts starting up front. Behind that, we've got Hogan. Then we've got Oliver Burke. Obviously, Yuki we'll talk about in a moment. But he's injured anyway, and he never starts games anyway. So it just shows you, this video is demonstrating how significantly poor our selection is for strikers.
It's no way near good enough for a championship.
Not for a championship.
For a team that wants to be competitive or survive in the championship, you need way more depth than that, don't you?
We do, and I think that will be addressed in the summer. But I think that's clearly a reason why we haven't been getting the goals that we need, because we just haven't got the depth in the squad.
But what's interesting is we had the January market just gone past. Why wouldn't we have tried to get a striker in
I
there?
don't understand that.
Like, we got in 2 more midfielders, and fair enough, they've been quite good for us. But for me, in my opinion, now we've seen him play, and don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Dazal, but I would have kept Dazal at QPR and possibly loaned in a striker from somewhere.
They may have tried, Matt, because we don't know. We don't know what goes behind the scenes, and we know it's notoriously difficult to get deals done in January. So I've got a feeling that they probably tried to get a striker, I just couldn't.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay, well, that brings us on to our last one, but there's going to be a little bit of a curveball at the end, I guess. So our second to last one for the interested video is Yuki. What are your thoughts on Yuki?
What can you say about him? He's a legend, isn't he? He's out of contract. He's 34 years old now, and his contract ends in in the summer. But he has all the attributes that we, as Birmingham City supporters, like to see. He's hardworking, he's committed, he understands the fan base, and he's a good role model for the younger players. And if Birmingham City are watching this in terms of the club, when you're recruiting in the summer, try and get some characters like Yuki, please, because we need more people like him. And my preference would be is that we need to keep him at the club in some capacity. I would be tempted. He's 34, so he could easily get another season out of him off the bench, possibly as a striker, but make him a player coach, and then maybe look at something more long term as a permanent coach. Because I think we need to keep him around the club. He's just absolutely brilliant. I think everybody loves Yuki.
Yeah, I mean, as much as it kills me to say it, I think if we stay up this season, we possibly wouldn't be looking to renew Yuki's contract. From a playing point of view, I think the club needs to move on to bigger and better things. I love Yuki. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I love the guy. It's debating whether he's a club legend or a hero or whichever semantics and words you want to use. But, I really like Yuki. However, I completely agree with your point. I would love to see him be connected to the club in some way.
Yeah.
We've got and Ruddy. I know this is a goalkeeping thing, but Ruddy as well. Mike Taylor's on the goalkeeping staff. These people are really good to have around the training camp. They're experienced. They know the club. They get the fan base. Their experience. These people are really valuable to have around the club. I completely agree. I would offer him some sort of maybe player coach role or just a coaching role. But for me, let's keep Yuki at the club if we can. Keep him around. Keep those positive vibes and someone who gets us.
Definitely. I think a lot of Blues fans are going to be really sad to see him play his last game in the first team for us. But
I think we might have already.
Yeah, we might have, because he's out for the rest of this season. I think. I think he's for the rest of this season. And it's sad sad day, but it happens to every player. But I think he's got, that's not going to be the end of Yuki. For we need to keep him at the club in some capacity, in my opinion.
Yeah, the Duke of Edinburgh is what people call it.
Yeah,
and I love being on social media and people post his old videos. And there's one goal in particular. It was Forest away, again, very typical Blues goal, crossing Yuki across the keeper. Just a fantastic goal. I love seeing those goals when they pop up. So big Yuki fan, but I think his time as a player has passed, sadly, if we want to move on to bigger and better things. But I'd love to see him around the club as a coach or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's got to happen. That's got to happen. And then, we haven't got him on this list here, but I think we also, while we're here, talk about Junior Dixon as well, one of our young players. He's a striker. Hearing good things about him. Did you know much about him? Or?
Well, we referenced Junior Dixon in our Where Are Our Goals Going to Come From video, didn't we? And we spoke about how there's been a couple of posts on social media with him scoring goals, and not many people know too much about him, but he seems to be quite dangerous. And I'm really not upset, but I'd like to see him have more minutes on the pitch. Even if it's just for the last 10 minutes of games, last 15 minutes of games. He's 20. Is he 21?
21.
21. It's not like he's Ramal Donovan, who's got that really, really small frame. I think Junior Dixon would be fine coming off the bench for sort of 10 or 15 minutes at the end of games, giving him more time. But why not send him out on loan? Why not get him more, first team match experience, maybe in a League One team or a League Two team or something? But for me, I'm making that statement off a player I've never really seen. So I'd love to see him just get a couple of minutes on the pitch and see what he's about. I mean, who knows what the end of this season holds? Maybe he might use him in his Arsenal towards the end, but it seems to be Rowett's picking Hogan to come off on the bench as that striker.
I think that's just where we are at the moment.
Yeah,
I think if we were in a position where we were mid-table, I think we'd definitely see Junior Dixon. I think you might as well put him in for a few games, but we're not. And he's 21. He's a young player, and I think he would be a risk at the moment. Yeah, he's doing really well in the under-23, scoring lots of goals, and clearly everything you read about him is that he's one for the future. At some point, he's going to have to be brought into the first team, but I don't think this season's the right thing for him. But clearly, he's the type of player we need to be looking after, we need to be keeping, and we need to be bringing through. Because if we want to be a sustainable club in the future, we have to bring our own players through.
But he's 21, he's not 16. He should be able to hold his own for 10 or 15 minutes or whatever in the Championship. If he's going to be a future star or really have any value at this club, I think at 21, you should be able to get some minutes on the board in the Championship. But I completely take your point. I think you're very right. I think because of where the club is, everything's at stake, and you can't afford to trial any players, can you really, when everything's at stake? So from what I've been hearing, I think he's a really good player. But why not, if we know he's not going to get any minutes next season, why not send him out on loan?
That may well happen. May well happen. But I think he's. This will be the final point for me. I think he's symptomatic of the need for us to be sustainable by bringing young players through. This is the way the club develop. You see it with clubs like the Brightons and the Brentfords and the Bournemouths, who nurture their own players and then they sell them on for bigger fees.
Yeah.
The other alternative, if you don't do that, you end up having to pay big fees like Chelsea do, and paying hundreds of millions of pounds for players. So I think
Casado from Brighton is mad, isn't it?
Well, it's crazy, and I think that players like Junior Dixon and Blues are really well known for bringing young players through. We could talk all day about the players that come through our academy, but this is the way we have to move forward to be sustainable. And Junior Dixon, I think, is a part of that, and I think we will see him over the next season, hopefully, just to get him in the first team. But so, what do you think, Birmingham City supporters? Obviously, we've been through 5 strikers plus Junior Dixon at the end there. Again, demonstrates how light we are up front, and we know there's going to be massive changes to our squad in the summer, particularly our forward line, because 4 of those 5 that we've just spoken about there are out of contract. The only one we'll have left is Tyler Roberts. But I'd love to know what your thoughts are on what you think about what we've said in the video. Do you agree with us? Have you got any comments you want to make about possibly, maybe even strikers you think would be a good fit for the Blues? Add them in the comments below and let us know. And if you did like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to check us out on our social media channels. You'll see them coming up on the screen right now. You'll see our handles for Instagram and for X. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you press that subscribe button so you don't miss any future content on Birmingham City. And myself and Matt will see you on the next video.